We're the leading Web3 professional network in the world. And we're very lucky to have Launchnodes here today. Rajesh Sinha, its CEO and founder, here with us today. And to give you guys a super short preview of what is Launchnodes, it specializes in provisioning a non-custodial enterprise-grade Ethereum staking services on infrastructure providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and clients on hardware. Their products include validator and beacon nodes, ETH, staking workshops, and DeFi white label solutions. So, and to summarize and to put that in an easier language, I would call it a bridge between traditional finance and the crypto world with enterprise grade for institutional probably operations and investors, but I'm sure there's a wide variety of use cases. And with that, Rajesh, I'll leave it to you. Why don't you give us, in your own words, a little introduction about your company and yourself?
Yeah, perfect. So thanks for that introduction, Ignacio. So we started Launchnodes in April 2020 on the belief that Ethereum was going to be a world-changing technology, essentially. And in order for as many people in the world to participate, people need to run their own nodes. So we set out to make that process of owning and running your own node very straightforward. If you wanted to run a node in your bedroom or at home, it's pretty difficult. We provide a very straightforward, simple way to stake and to do it at scale if you want to. So that's the reason why you mentioned some of the cloud providers that we're working with: AWS, GCP, Azure. The big financial institutions want to be in those environments, but in order to provide diversity and in order to provide full coverage and give people the choice, we're also operating on bare metal in Cape Town and Virginia and around the world. But you're absolutely right. Our whole kind of philosophy is to enable people to run their own nodes. So we're not a staking as a service provider. We're not an exchange. We simply make it very easy, if you want to stake Ethereum, to set up, lock your Ethereum onto your node, and then stake. And you get to choose what technology to run on. You get to choose which cloud to run on. You get to choose what software modules. So you've got complete flexibility and ownership of your digital assets, but also your technology choices, which I think is super important.
I mean, if people only could look back at how cumbersome and difficult it was to do this safely in the beginning of Ethereum itself,
Sure.
to what you're providing today, I think people would be shocked, right? And technology keeps getting better, but the idea is not just better is a wide word, right? It's
Sure.
more secure, more transparent, and more volume, right? Less downtime, all of the above.
Exactly.
And what you're doing provides an incredible, because as we were saying, mass adoption is not going to happen unless big institutions and corporations come along into Web3. And that will only happen if they can do it through and institutional grade. And there's infrastructure providers in Web3, but good luck getting a big corporation or financial institution to change from AWS. That's a much bigger ask.
Yeah, completely.
Migrating that than anything else. So we're better off in Web3 actually trying to find solutions that can actually merge to those existing workflows and existing infrastructure providers, which is what you've done, which I think is fantastic.
Absolutely, but I would stress that if a client comes to us and said they've got their own data center or they've got their own bare metal solution that they absolutely want to use, we absolutely will support that. And that's the whole premise: is you get to make the technology's choices. But as you say, Ignacio, what we want to do is make it easy for institutions to have faith in the technology solutions. When we launch a product on AWS, for example, it goes through all of their security vetting, so people know that there's no Easter eggs tucked away in there somewhere. They can fully trust us. They can check the code. It's pretty robust and it's secure, and it's a security model that they've already adopted as a bank or as a hedge fund. So that works really well.
Love it. And I want to ask you about the different use cases, but more on the persona side. Like, who are the users that can go out and use your product?
Sure.
Stakers, Launchnodes, financial businesses, individuals. Can you run us through kind of the use cases depending on who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, one of the things that we're super optimistic about is being able to democratize staking in Ethereum. So we didn't want this to be a service purely for Wall Street banks. We want individuals with 32 ETH to be able to run their own bank effectively, and that's what we've been focused on. So probably around 60% of our customers now self-serve. They go to one of the marketplaces and buy our product and run their own node, and we don't even know who they are particularly. Others are hedge funds, Wall Street banks, family offices, crypto businesses who have decided that they want to be in staking, but they don't necessarily want to run their own nodes and have the complexity that goes with that. They don't want to be sitting in Discord channels trying to work out when the next version update is and how to apply that to their hardware. So we have all of those types of customers. We've got NASDAQ listed businesses. We've worked with some governments and non-governmental organizations to use staking for things like providing internet connectivity to schools. So it's a whole mix of people, but essentially, if you do have 32 ETH and you want full control of your digital assets, and you've got some technical capability, then ours is a solution that works really well from that perspective.
And this narrative is very powerful now that it seems we cannot trust any form of centralized finance, whether they're crypto exchanges or traditional banks. It seems like being your own custodian is the best way to go.
Yeah, and that's why I describe it as running your own bank essentially, or you can book an airline ticket with an airline, or you can own an airline, and we're helping people own their own airline. They get to choose which aircraft, they get to choose which routes. All of the kind of technology aspects are in their own hands, and they can say, right, we want to run a Prismatic client or a Teku client. We want it to run in London or in Frankfurt, and all of those choices they can make essentially. And as you say, they're fully in control and don't have to worry about the SEC particularly.
It's great. And I have a bit of a cheeky question, which is the landscape has completely changed this last year, obviously.
Sure.
And risk-free assets for the first time. Well, you could say that the U.S. is so over-levered that I don't know if those are risk-free anymore, right? I think there's never been a greater risk of the U.S. going into default than ever before.
Sure.
But you're now getting 4%, right? Risk-free treasury rate, supposedly. In this environment, how competitive and how does that match up to the yields that you can get stake in Ethereum? Is it still competitive? Is it something that still people are looking at? What's the demand? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, so there's a couple of components to that. There's different types of rewards you get from staking. There's the kind of consensus level rewards and the execution level rewards, and you can also get rewards by participating in MEV, so minimal extractable value, and that can vary between say 3-4% up to maybe 10-12%, depending on who you ask and who how your nodes are run. So it is pretty competitive, but I think a lot of customers are
extremely competitive.
Yeah, sure. But I think a lot of our customers are also, they want to be part of the network. They want to be adding to the future, part of the kind of fabric that is the next internet, as it were. And other customers of ours, and I didn't mention this when we talked about client use cases earlier, want to be plugged in from a data perspective. They want to be on the Ethereum mainnet so that they can run analytics, they can run distributed applications. So yes, it's competitive, but there's many more reasons beyond purely the financial gain that people are kind of switching on to staking.
Yeah, absolutely. You're helping provide, you're providing incredible value, right? By maintaining the blockchain and playing a crucial role in the whole ecosystem, right? Which that takes me to the next question, which is we're Bondex, we are all about talent and really matching people around the world with the best opportunities to switch in Web3. And I think one of them is being one of these node validators and one of these people that upkeep the infrastructure. And you don't just have to work for a company. You could do this on your own, right? With some hardware and some infrastructure. So if I was looking to do that, how could easily could an individual start staking and start a good operation using Launchnodes?
Yeah, so very straightforwardly, I think is a simple answer. So we have a model, we have processes where you can come along this afternoon or tomorrow and say, I have enough ETH, I want to run a node farm effectively, or I want to start with one node and start staking, within 24 hours. That's very straightforward. we run a free trial as well. So if people want to come along and see what's involved, then they can do that as well, and they can do that with test Ethereum if they wanted to. So yeah. So and for larger stakers, it's again very straightforward, and that's the whole ethos of what we do. It's to make it very easy for people to launch nodes, manage them very effectively, whether that's one node or 1,000 nodes. So I guess back to the original point, we are all about making it straightforward for people to run nodes and be a node operator themselves, and that then gives them access to all sorts of different platforms that they could be a part of by running those nodes.
Okay, so for everyone listening, Launchnodes, we not only provide you with tools that you need, but the knowledge and the education. If you want to get into staking Ethereum and becoming a node, and help validate the entire kind of their blockchain and ecosystem, Launchnodes is the way to go for anyone listening. They're the way to go. They will also teach you how to do it, which is not easy because there's such an overabundance of data, and there's a lot of people offering crappy quality of content that it's hard to validate. So finding a trusted resource in crypto and in Web3 is also extremely valuable. So I encourage everyone listening to go check them out and their knowledge. And something now I want to turn the conversation more about talent itself and hiring people for Web3. You've already told me Launchnodes is 30 strong around the world. I want to know how you've gone about building your team. What platforms happening to your network? How has it all worked out? How does the company work? How is it structured? How does the team work?
Yeah, so we are a truly kind of global company. We started in the UK in 2020, and there was really a kind of team of 4 of us that got together, and we've worked together over 20 odd years in different technology startups and financial institutions. And our goal was to kind of build out the team with a mobile, remote first philosophy. So we wanted to attract the best talent wherever they happen to be in the world. And that's meant, we've got teams in Central Europe, we've got folks in India, which is where we do most of our engineering from. And really, the initial growth was friends and family almost. It was people we knew, people who were initial hires, who reached out to their contacts, recommendations from our networks. But that's got harder and harder as we've scaled. And we've forged some really successful relationships with local universities in India, for example, where talent's coming from those sources, which I think has been great. But yeah, we're always looking at new ways to attract talent and to get the right people in the door.
And so you've told me that the team is really fully global. And I've talked to a lot of companies in the space, and I like Web3 that because it's a new industry, everyone's kind of grabbed the best pieces of the latest workflows models, right? So a lot of people are distributed first; they go where the talent is, but that presents its own challenges, right? As you were saying, as we were talking about it before, quality assurance, how to onboard people properly. So what are some of the best practices you guys do so you get the most out of your employees and the best culture of the company while you're fully distributed?
Sure. So I think during the recruitment process, being very upfront about we're looking for the right caliber of people, the right mindset of people, what our working practices are, and what we expect of people. That's helped us shape our hiring processes and shape who's come on board with us. We've got some great kind of ongoing engagement with all of our staff. So we have calls every morning to kind of check in, stand-up calls. We have engineering calls once a week where different members of the team present and share their experience. We've got WhatsApp groups and Slack channels and other ways to always be in touch and always know what's happening within the business. And then kind of the project management tools, which enable us to kind of stay on top of all of our operations as a business. But fundamentally, again, I think it comes down to mindset and hiring people with the right attitude. So all of this stuff is super new. We're never going to find anyone with 10 years blockchain experience on their CV.
There are none. The supply's not there.
Sure. So what we're really looking for are folks who are very dynamic, very flexible, very agile, very creative, who come to our business with a can-do attitude and want to contribute. And we find out quite quickly if folks have joined and they don't have that same outlook really. And the folks who are really successful in our business have that mindset.
That's what we're always preaching here, that there's an arbitrage opportunity here in which getting Web3 skills or into a good Web3 company, which now, be it winter, build market, whatever you want to call it, the good projects are going to stand out more because they have sustainable business models, they have good backing, and that's still going to happen no matter the conditions. And you can pick those projects better that are going to be successful and position yourself for the next cycle now. And there's not that many people with these skills. So if you go into this field, you're going to have an advantage and you're going to be sought after. And that's what I'm always preaching. You're saying there's no one with 10 years of experience in blockchain on their resume.
Sure.
Because there are none. Just to give you a statistic, I think the top 50 unicorns in crypto employ about 30,000 people. That's actually a very small number of people.
Sure.
And so again, even no matter the conditions, it's really a great bet to get into the space now. So, and some of the last things you said gave me to my next point, which is, okay, so what are some of those aptitudes and attitudes that you go and find? And it can be technical, it can be business development. It doesn't matter so much the typography of the skill set you're going after, but what are some of the things you look for when you're hiring for Launchnodes?
Yeah, so creativity, I think, is one of them, and agility, really. So you could have come to us with, we don't care necessarily whether you've got Java skills or C++ skills or Rust skills or Solidity skills, as long as you've got the capacity to learn those skills pretty quickly. So if you're able to approach a problem with the right mindset and say, okay, I don't know this technology, or I don't know this architecture, but give me 2 days and the internet, and I can find out about it, then that's a great starting point, really. And I think you can tell some of that in the initial conversations and what people have done in their past and how much of a self-starter people are. And then beyond that, really, it's how are they going to fit into our team? Do they fit our culture? And as I say, we're a very flat organization. We don't have a huge amount of bureaucracy. We are a kind of a corporate entity, but at the same time, you wouldn't know it from day to day working with us. So we're very friendly, approachable, and people plug into that very quickly, or they don't, I suppose.
I love everything I hear, guys. And if you're listening, you should be excited about this type of for an organization like this. And something that you say really resonates with us, because I feel that a resume is more and more obsolete. Just a static list of what someone has done doesn't really tell you what they're capable of learning and their passion. And that's something that so I think we need to change talent infrastructure to reflect a more dynamic professional identity and what someone's capable of doing and learning than everything that someone's done and their experience and this and that and the other. And that's part of our mission here at Bondex.
And one of the things that's also a really good indicator of whether someone will get it within our organization is, can they explain things clearly? So the real people who can deliver on projects, or who can really make a project a success, are folks who can explain it in very simple terms to other people in the team, because that demonstrates to me that they really understand it, they really know it. They're not hiding behind a bunch of jargon or technical literature. They actually understand the real world applications of things, which is ultimately what we're all about.
We're completely aligned there. And I have one last question for you, which is how we usually end it, which is, I like to call it, we're in a build market because this is the best time to build. Sure. What are some of the challenges of the current conditions, even though we're up on the year on year since January, but what are some of the challenges of the current market conditions and opportunities?
Yeah, so let me start with the opportunities first. I think a lot of the kind of fluffier projects, I suppose, have disappeared. And I think the folks who are head down building at the moment are very much the kind of foundations for what will happen after the kind of crypto winter or current state of the market, I think. So I think all of my colleagues and friends who are working on projects right now and really making them happen, I think we'll see the benefits of that in months and years to come. And some of the challenges really are nervousness on the part of institutions and projects slow rolling effectively. So it taking a long time for people to sign off on projects or commit to projects, and funding for the same reasons. But again, I think some of the hardier projects will be nimble, will be agile through this winter, and will emerge stronger as a result of it.
I'm completely in agreement with you. And again, if you're looking to get into the space, it's a better time than ever because there's less fluff. You can pick the winners better, and you can pick the companies with the right mission, right values, and right people working at it much better. And that's it for today, folks. I just wanna thank Rajesh and Launchnodes for coming on today, and thank you everyone for listening. Rajesh, where can we find you, and where can we find more about Launchnodes?
All the usual places. So Twitter, LinkedIn. We're at launchnodes.com. Come and find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect. But yeah, looking forward to building our community. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Ignacio.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time. And thank you everyone for listening again. Have a great week.